We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We hold
That is our generation's task. To make these words, these rights, these values of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness real for every American.
Amidst the efforts of the past and present, why does the problem of segregation in America seem to be going nowhere? Even with less openly discriminatory displays towards minority races, the white race continues to have an easier path to success than blacks and other minorities. In order to help blacks onto the other side of the scale, the government is stepping in when it is already too late. There is a problem in our society today, and I think you might know about it. But if you don't, I will explain. The United States has a wealth gap that is getting completely out of control. Almost half the wealth in our entire country is found in the hands of 1% of our population. As time goes on, whites are getting so much more of that wealth than both blacks and Hispanics. This diagram shows that in 1983, whites accumulated $184,000 in wealth, blacks accumulated $54,000, and Hispanics accumulated $46,000. Whites have shot up and now make $1.1 million in wealth, and blacks and Hispanics are nowhere near that type of improvement. Why is this happening? It isn't because people prefer to hire whites or because minorities can't seem to have good enough grades to get into good colleges. It is because our country is segregated in our communities. Nancy lives in Oak Park, Illinois, and attends Voice Academy High School. Only an hour away from Nancy, David lives in a more suburban area and attends Deerfield High School. After graduation, David will probably attend college and have a successful career. Nancy will not. Here's why. Voice Academy High School happens to be one of the lowest ranking high schools in all of Chicago area, with an average ACT score of 14.9. Deerfield High School is one of the top 7 high schools with an average ACT score above the average at 26.9. Nancy will not. This type of inequality is a huge problem for the government because Voice Academy High School is 90% black and 0% white, and Deerfield High School is 90% white and 0% black. This shows that still today blacks are getting the short end of the stick. This is not only inequality, but also discrimination to the black race. As a nation, in order to solve inequality between races, we have to begin by digging up our past and relocating to more fertile ground where our children can flourish. There is an African proverb that states, "It takes a village to raise a child." So I suggest that we give the child a village that has the resources and experience to raise them to be hopeful of a bright and successful future. Where a child lives determines where they will go to school, and early education determines their future careers. The government's valiant attempt to give more opportunities to minorities and make up for mistreatment in the past is by sprinkling minorities into elite colleges, so that these individuals will hopefully be able to get an education that will get them out of the ghetto and into more suburban areas. This is called affirmative action. This solution doesn't work. Here's why. The Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment illegalizes discrimination based on race, nationality, or ethnicity and makes affirmative action unconstitutional for favoring blacks over whites. Also, affirmative action is not always helpful for disadvantaged students because many of them do not succeed in such a prestigious environment because they are not as prepared as the other students. Since this solution has proven to be unsuccessful, our government should make efforts to step in earlier rather than later to begin closing the gap. Long ago, 50 years to be exact, our government came up with the Fair Housing Act. The purpose of the law is to protect the renter or buyer of housing from discrimination by the seller. However, when it was first created, no one cared enough or was willing enough to enforce it properly. New York Times refers to the act as being undercut from the start because of political officials who put sanctions on things. Back then, many of them thought of segregation as natural order. The government is easy to blame for the state of ghettos today because it took them 50 years to enforce a law that was already made. The problem is not only found in the past, but is continuing today through discrimination. Former Vice President Walter Mondale said it well in last year's Housing and Urban Development Conference about the Fair Housing Act of 1968.
The Fair Housing Act has unfinished business. When high-income black families cannot qualify for a prime loan and are steered away from white suburbs, the goals of the Fair Housing Act are not fulfilled. When the federal and state governments will pay to build new suburban highways, streets, sewers, schools, and parks, but then allow these communities to exclude affordable housing and not white citizens, the goals of the Fair Housing Act are not fulfilled. When we build most new subsidized housing in poor black or Latino neighborhoods, the goals of the Fair Housing Act are not fulfilled.
Now that we have come up with the solution to the problem, how can you help to improve the enforcement of the Fair Housing Act in your lives? As college students, we are consistently thinking about what our future has in store and where our next road will take us. As we move out of student housing and into our own communities, think about who makes up those communities. Are there minorities in your neighborhood, in your children's schools? If not, then take action to stand up for what is best for our country. One way is to vote for people who will support the Federal Housing Act and recognize the importance of integration within communities. On the memorable day that you go looking to buy your own house, consider buying a place that is near lower income and minority housing and is not purely white income suburbia. I am a student at BYU, and I am taking a stand to let people know that solving housing discrimination and inequality is our society's bridge to success. I am taking a stand, and so should you. Thanks for watching.